Hello and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360. Now, general elections are scheduled for February and March 2023 in Nigeria. As expected, political campaigns have begun in earnest. Political parties and their candidates are crisscrossing the country and states, canvassing votes and trying to win the hearts of Nigerians with their ideas and manifestos. Through the campaigns, the candidates and political parties prepare and present their ideas and positions on issues and their propositions on how they intend to govern if elected. And to be candid, these campaigns are quite expensive to organize. Now, candidates vying for the office of the president have officially begun advertising in the media, stating their plans through various platforms. Now, there have also been rallies and marches by supporters of some of the candidates in what you may describe as a show of force. Again, all of this involves humongous amount of money, literally billions of naira. But the question is, do these political campaigns actually influence the way people vote in Nigeria? Will they really make the difference in the next general election? So are there some other major or more important factors now that matter? Joining me to discuss all of this and more, political affairs analyst Gani Kayode Balogun. He joins us from Lagos, and then I have Habu Hamisu, who joins us from Abuja. He is also a political analyst and a political expert. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me start with you. So let me start with you, Mr. Balogun. Do you think, I mean, with the huge amount we spend on political campaigns every year, and this year, of course, will not be an exception at all, do you think these campaigns actually make any difference at all in how people eventually vote?
Well, in the long run, it's basically preaching to the choir, as it were, because I'm sure that by now, 90–95% of those who are going to vote in these elections have already made up their mind the party they are to vote for, depending on whoever gets to them first. So I think most of this is just basically a show of force, like you rightly said, basically to show the flag. Because we know that if there are going to be any fundamental changes to what we saw 4 years ago, it's going to be in the number of the people that are going to turn out, not necessarily in the direction they are going to vote. That, of course, is a possibility of a dark horse. But as far as I'm concerned, right now, majority of those who have PVCs have made up their mind the direction they want to vote in the elections.
And the campaigns are just starting.
Yeah, don't forget the Nigerian campaigns, or generally what we do before elections, is basically a carnival, if I can use that word. It's for those who are part of the campaign to make it as much fun as possible for their supporters. But the main key here that I think we are going to look forward to is the candidates' ability to get out the votes. It's one thing to carry people to the stadium or to call them to come and march or to do a rally. It's another kettle of fish entirely to get them out on the days of the election to go and vote. That to me will be the X factor in who's going to win this election. The person who can galvanize his base more than the others will appear to come victorious after the...
Okay, I'm going to come back to you. Let me go to Habi Hamisu in Abuja. What's your take on what he's just said? Do you think these campaigns don't really matter that much?
Well, in every electoral settings, there are a lot of sentiments that used to influence voters to vote. One cannot fundamentally and outrightly write off the campaign process because it is a way of making statements. As you earlier mentioned, it is a place that we are able to show our strength. And it is believed that the number of persons you are able to gather will reflect on the votes you are going to get. For instance, a party that refuses to campaign during an election, that is not able to mobilize people, that is not able to gather persons that will champion a cause, going to court to say election has been rigged. The first question that people may likely ask ab initio would be, what was the party's strength, because during the campaign processes, we've not seen those that have professed to love them, that they are gathered in one place and that they are discussing the fortune of the party vis-a-vis how to win the votes. So elections, electioneering campaigns are part of the process that parties are able to test their strength and to make statements. That is one part of it. The other angle again is for these parties to be able to mobilize these persons to actually cast their ballot on the day of the election. And so you come to see a discrepancy between the number of persons that turn up across the state, across the regions, as well as the total number of votes. And that is what we call political apathy in political science. We've witnessed that in Nigeria, but that parties should fold their arms, that they should not go about seeking for votes is not part of the democratic process. Though it is expensive, parties will have to do that. The influence that will on the actual number of people that will go to vote on that day is what is lacking substantially.
Now you look at it from what you have said. Do you think it's actually necessary to spend the humongous amount we do spend during political campaigns? Because whether you like it or not, I mean, these political parties will spend billions of naira. And the question is, if this political campaigns don't really count for much, if you like, because you look at it, these political campaigns are held, the candidates go there, they probably spend 5 minutes talking, they don't really say much anyway, and it's over. They're moving on to the next campaign and all of that. And so why do we have to spend these huge amount of money to organize these campaigns, especially when, in the real sense, you know, from what both of you have said, they don't really count for so very much?
Yeah. Yeah, you see, it has become a ritual in liberal democracy that candidates move about to sell their manifesto, to talk to people. But in our own climate, there are other fundamental issues, some of which are mundane in nature, that usually influence the voters beyond the party manifesto. Until recently, Nigerians are not even very much concerned about the manifesto of candidates. They are concerned about the tribe, the religion, the region, and so on and so forth of the aspirant, more than the manifesto and the impact the manifesto will have on them. Until very recently, that we are beginning to have issues around insecurity, long drawn out ASU strike, inflation, unemployment, poverty. These are issues that are beginning to reset the brains of Nigerians more than anything. So we would see as we go forward in this election that people may very much interrogate the manifestos of most of the aspirants. But before, even up to this point, religion is still an issue. Even as we are talking about insecurity, religion is still an issue. Ethnicity is still an issue. So to come back to your point, it is not worth the amount that is being spent, even the time, the energy, the risk involved, the death rate and everything. But it's a ritual. And you know, we Nigerians, we don't look at practices to say that this does not fit in our own settings and then we should jettison it. In other places, billboards will be okay. Even in Kenya, the issue of amassing people, cramping them into a stadium, the stampede, the death and everything are always avoided. Even in America, it's not about filling the stadium, it's about sending the message with the right crowd and the right people. And that makes the statement. But in Nigeria, the word you use for it, aptly capture it, is a show of force, which never translates to votes. And we've witnessed it before, and I'm sure we're going down that road again. But the other factor again is the fact that the political parties, especially the dominant ones, don't want to be outdone by the other one, so that they don't use their crowd to justify any advantage. So the competition is equally there. If you go to Port Harcourt, for instance, and Party A was able to say they mobilized 1.5 million, we go there and spend that party to say we've mobilized 2 million to show that we are. But on the day of election, we've seen it, even in 2015 election, where crowd did not make any much difference on the day of election. And the
okay, I'm going to come back to you. Let me go to Mr. Balogun in Lagos. He touched on something very important, the issue of religion. And we know in Nigeria, religion, ethnicity, and Yes, religion and ethnicity play a very, very important role in how people vote during elections. And let me ask you this. You look at these coming elections, how much of a factor do you think religion and even ethnicity now will be for the election? Do you think it will weigh high in the minds of voters when they go to cast their votes?
Yeah, it's going to be a very big part of what will decide the elections next year. Besides, don't call it ethnicity and religion. We call it values, because it's not peculiar to Nigeria. All over the world, democracies, people vote on their values. The white evangelicals will vote a particular way because they are against certain things they think is against their values. So I think we should use more words that are more calculating than all these refers to all of us. But as you said, all over the world, Nigeria not excluded, people vote according to what they think will protect their values. And this election will not be any different. Already, the safe fare ticket is driving a wedge where some people who are normally looking that way will now have to rethink the way they view life, because they assume that a particular ticket is not for them. There will be those who will be looking at the ticket that the man on the ticket speaks their language or attends their church. And I'm not talking about Christianity as a whole. There even be micromanaging at that level. People who are going to claim that I'm going to vote for him because he's a Catholic or because he's an Anglican. And the same thing applies to the other side. Those who vote for him, I'm going to vote for him because he's a Sunni or because he's a Shiite. All these are nuances that will come into when people are deciding which area to go to. But do not forget that 80% have already made up their mind. It's only the very tiny minority in the middle that will sway the election one way or the other. Because you and I know that when people are doing analysis, they will tell you this place is safe for this party, this place is too close to call. That, of course, because the dynamics of 2019 is not going to be the dynamics of 2023. There's no incumbent going forward in most of the states. Most of them are second-term governors. The president is a second-term president. So a new team and a new vision and a new configuration of interest will now come into play to decide where we go next. Yeah, between you and I, religion, ethnicity, other factors, race, sex, all this will come into play, but we simply call it that people's values will determine where they are going to vote next year.
I have to ask you this question, Hamisu. From what you have seen so far, we know that since 1999, when we started this democracy, the current democracy we are enjoying now, presidential election in this country has always been more or less a two-horse race. Could we say, from what you are seeing now and from what, for instance, Peter Obi is doing with the Labour Party, can we say the next presidential election is going to be a three-horse race?
Actually, I'm thinking it's going to be a four-horse race, if there's anything like that. Because you are discounting the influence of Kwankwaso in some very heavily populated states in the north. It may not be a major player in the convention that we're looking at. The same thing that the Obi man may not be a major player as far as reality is concerned outside the social media. So all this will, of course, factor in those two-horse races we are talking about and the way it will play out. Don't forget, they are going to eat into votes that are already established for some parties in some areas. And this, of course, will either bring down the number of votes they will acquire or the percentage they will require for the overall victory. Because it's okay for you to score, as you remember, 2011, Buhari was scoring 12 million, 13 million votes, but he never got the spread until 2015. So you can have the figures, but you will not have the spread. But the man who is now eating to your spread may not affect even your ability to meet the minimum requirements to be declared a winner. All these are factors that we have to look in as you go forward. So I agree with you, but it's not a three-horse race. It's a 4-horse race with 2 front runners. That's where I would describe it.
Hamisu, what's your own take? You think it's a 4-horse race as well?
No, not really. You know, there are indicators to use in measuring political successes, even if we've not gotten to that point. Nigerian politics is about coalition. It's about coalition building, it's about confidence building, it's about mobilizing the people, which Obi is doing, Kwankwaso is also doing that. Don't forget the fact that APC was able to mobilize the required coalition in 2015, and that was why it was able to upstage the PDP. And then even the current candidate of the PDP is equally trying to ensure that that coalition that used to be is maintained, especially the squad that is being led by Governor Wike that are demanding for the resignation of the party chairman, Ayu. This goes to show you that you need the coalition to give you the spread in addition to the popular vote. As he said, I quite agree with him. I align myself with his thought that we have 4-horse race with 2 front runners. If you look at it critically, if there is any party that is at the forefront of these are the 2 parties, but even the 2 parties have their own problems. The APC is grappling with same-faith ticket. PDP is grappling with the aftermath of the zoning that was destroyed under President Goodluck. And then Kwankwaso has not been able to expand beyond northern Nigeria, where it is gradually replacing the PDP and the aggrieved members of the APC. If you look at the Labour Party, yeah, it is doing wonderfully well, but I've not seen it garnering the required coalition that we give it the spread as well as the popular vote. Yeah, it's doing well in the south, in part of the north, but we realize that if you want to win election, you need a very solid coalition that transcends religion and ethnicity and whatever indices that has kept us divided. So for me, it's very much sure it's a 4-horse race with 2 frontliners. And even those 2 frontliners, they are not smiling as well.
Very interesting. One final question that I have to ask you. You look at, you know, these front runners you've talked about. You look at Bola Tinubu.
Yes.
It's I don't know whether to say this. It's sort of a coincidence that among the major candidates you have running for election in 2023, they belong to the 3 major tribal groups of this country. We're talking about the Yorubas, the Hausas, and the Igbos. So you look at that, and the impression one tends to get is that there's every likelihood that, you know, these candidates may do well in their areas now, as in where they come from. So the question then is, what do you think could make the difference in this election? Yes, for whoever wins, yes.
Yeah, as I said earlier on, is the person with the highest coalition. And the 2 frontliners, for instance, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu have been around the political terrain since 1990s. So they know themselves very well. They served in the same government. But if you look at it in the context of the reality we are dealing with, you could say that Senator Ahmed Tinubu has coalition, a huge coalition. Apart from the same faith issue that is bedeviling the party, you could say the party is standing on a very solid footing because of the fact that they have the coalition. Because if you look at it, you have a lot of Christians that are working for him, just the way you have a lot of Christians that are working for Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. But again, if PDP is not able to manage its internal crisis, just the way it is going, a lot of people, for instance, the party needs the governors because we understand the political terrain. You need the gatekeepers that can mobilize people, that can stand their ground and defend whatever interests of the party that it wants to really defend. So, and then you have a party that is going into election in February, and up to now, they are still having a crisis. So you could place them at second position until, giving them the benefit of the doubt that until they are able to resolve their internal crisis, because parties are not defeated until there are internal crises. We saw what happened in 2015. It was the internal crisis within the PDP that defeated it, and then the APC came and took over power. So if the party is going into an election and is not able to put its house in order, is much more serious comparing to same fate that we're talking about. Because same fate, some persons may not, and this is what I'm beginning to see. There are independent-minded persons that want to see a Nigeria where religion and ethnicity will not really influence their choice of candidate. And those people are beginning to speak up. For instance, somebody like Fani Kayode, that was known to attack Muslim ticket previously, is at the forefront of selling Muslim ticket for APC. So you now ask, what has changed? So you have people like that, the same way you have people like that in PDP. So whatever group, the highest coalition with the highest number of persons, if we have the highest coalition that want Nigerians to vote not based on religion, dropping their religious sentiment and then voting according to their conscience or new issues that has to do with unemployment or insecurity, I would have said Nigeria is advancing and our democracy is advancing.
Okay, I get you. Mr. Balogun, let me get your take on that. What do you think will make the difference for whoever wins this election?
Well, like I said earlier, there's going to be a convergence of interests. And that's what will determine the election next year. It's not about tribe, it's not about religion. It's the candidates who was able to put together a coalition, like he said, or a convergence of interests together, that they will now decide to work together towards a common goal. And this, of course, is going to transcend regions, it's going to transcend religion, it's going to transcend ethnicity. Because ultimately, people want power. And nobody in his right mind who is a politician wants to serve in opposition beyond a reasonable level of time. Like he said, you will see a lot of crisscrossing in the next few months, or people whose interests are not being served in what you consider their traditional or natural habitats, who now move across and negotiate a better deal with the opposition. Of course, this may be religious consideration or ethnic consideration or other considerations. But at the end of the day, the major consideration will be about what is in it for me, what is in it for the voters that rely on me to influence their choice. And that's what will take the winner across the finishing line in February.
But would both of you agree, finally, would both of you, and I want you to be very brief with your answers here, would both of you agree that next year's election will be like one we have never seen before in this country?
Yes. But the more things change, the more they remain the same.
Let me hear from you, Gani Kayode Balogun, your take on that very quickly.
I said you are correct, but you also know that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Today it may look like the thing is in a state of flux. But you and I know that when the election comes, things will fall into a familiar pattern. And the difference will only be marginal.
Okay. Okay, I get that now. Abu Hamisu, what will be your last word?
Oh yeah, it's going to be a very decisive election in the sense that the combinations, the factors, the actors are different actors, and all of them are waxing stronger in their own way. And then a lot of the issues that are defining this very particular election are things that makes it more interesting. And I see interesting times ahead. We shouldn't be surprised if the two front runners never got the spread, but they will get the popular vote. It's not out of place.
So it's not impossible that we could have a runoff, and that would be like a fest in this country. Well, we'll wait and see how it plays out. Gentlemen, thank you very much for talking to me on the program. Thank you very much for your time. Gani Kayode Balogun joined us from Lagos, and then I have Abu Hamisu in Abuja. Thank you so very much. Yeah. All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back to discuss, of course, the legal tussle now over Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra. Stay with us, don't go away.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians are saying in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.